It's even got my name on it. Okay. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Let's get rolling. Welcome, everybody. Just a quick question. A lot of new faces here. How many people have been at one of my trainings before live? Or who has not heard me speak before? Oh, good. I won't have to come up with any new material. Okay, so we're going to cover a couple of what I like to call multi-million-dollar skills in network distribution. One of them is the art of storytelling, and the other is how to find your leadership in depth, right? How to work deep and find a leadership, what that looks like in terms of this business. I'm going to start with my personal story. That's always a good place to start. And I'm going to do the extended version. So there's the 60-second story, which we'll be talking about in a moment. But I'm going to give you sort of the extended 5-minute introductory version. My name's David Moses, 55 years old. I live in Toronto, originally from London, England. Married, got my one daughter's here, my wife's here, and I got one daughter in New York who's married, and I have my first grandson.
Wow, congratulations.
And that's kind of cool because when I started this industry back in December of 1989, my wife was pregnant, and my first daughter, who is now married with a son, was born 4 months later. So things happen. So remember we've said like Zeej is a legacy company, a generational company. That's actually happening for real. So it's an amazing thing. I finished high school in 1981, graduated grade 12, honor roll student, 51 average. That's a fact, that's not a joke. I graduated with a 51. Wow. I like to brag about that now because I can. But today, apparently, you need 65 minimum to graduate. But in 1981, as long as you were over 50, you graduated. Hey, Dee Dee, good to see you again. It's been a long time. And so I had a 90% in woodshop, and I had 85% in phys ed. So those two subjects got me over the line. Anyways, what's my point? My point is you don't need to be a BA, MBA, or an honor roll student to be successful in this business. It's a very simple business. In fact, a high education could be a handicap because we can complicate something very, very simple. So the story goes, I ended up in the family business in 1982 after I graduated as a locksmith glazer, basically fixing windows and repairing locks. And it's actually a pretty big business. My father started in 1970. Today there's upwards of 50 employees, 11 vans on the road. It's a pretty big business in Toronto. My cousin took it over. I basically just didn't want to do that kind of labor. I had a different path. I didn't know what the path was at the time, but a different path. So in 1985, I left the family business, and both my brother and I got into the restoration of collectible cars. For those of you who are looking to friend me on Facebook, you cannot, my primary page is full. I've opened up a secondary page where you'll see the header picture has 5 muscle cars on it, 5 white cars. That's the business I got into with my brother, restoring those cars. And it was great, and we did well. My brother's 11 years older, but then in 1989, he decided that he wanted to go on his own. He didn't want to work with his little brother. There was some, like, friction there. Anybody had friction with family members? So he bought me out.
Oh, wow.
I'm 27 years old. I've never been out in the real working world. I've got no concept of anything. But I'm driven and I'm highly motivated because it is split up with my brother. Like, it was kind of one of those, he'll show me, I'll show him, who's right, who's wrong. Not the greatest motivations, but at the time, that's what was the motivator. So what happened was, this is verbatim what happened. I'm going to my accountant, not that I had any money, but I went to my accountant, and on the same floor of his office was an unemployment office. And I was curious, like, what goes on there? By the way, not much. So I go in, and there's this rack with these free newspapers, and they're all over the floor. So I pick up one of these newspapers off the floor. If you can imagine, that newspaper off the floor is why I'm here today.
Wow.
I mean, things happen. I was going to say something happened. Things happen. So there was an ad in the paper. The ad said, $100,000/sales marketing, international company expanding, seeking 5 key people to market line, international relocation, car bonus, call Mr. Cervello. That's the exact ad. Now, when you're 27 years old, you haven't been around, you read an ad like that, in 1989, it looked really intriguing. I mean, I thought, I'm going to call this ad and I'm going to get this job. So I called the ad. About a week later, a guy calls me back and he interviews me on the phone and asks me a bunch of questions and then says, Mr. Moses, we'd like to have you come take a look at our company. So I'm running up and down the hallway in my house and telling my wife, can you believe it? They're looking for 5 key people and I've got the interview. And so I went to the interview, and it happened to be on a Saturday morning at a local, not a hotel, but an office. And apparently 150 other people got the same interview. That was my first exposure to this business of network marketing or person-to-person marketing. They were marketing water filters. How many people have heard of a company, Juice Plus? So that company actually was called NSA, and they marketed water filters. And you got to, this was before there was no such thing as bottled water. Right? The idea of Fiji water for $4.50, twice the price of gasoline, right? Of a gallon of gas, was like not even a concept, right? And I thought, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Water filtration, they talked about the bad water and all that. So I'm sitting in this meeting, and again, what am I doing here right now? I'm telling a story. Telling the story, okay? And I'm going to talk to you about how to become a master storyteller. That's what we're going to do here today, along with working in depth. So I'm sitting in the audience, and they're doing the testimonials, and there was no laptops or anything. They had the overhead projector with plastic acetates. And they did the presentation, and here's what I heard. This is what I heard at that meeting. A lot of things were said, but what I heard was time freedom, build a consumer base, earn a royalty income on the customers ordering and reordering and replacing their filters over the years, having a national business, and working from home with no overhead, no employees, no receivables, no payables, no inventory. That's what I heard, right? How many people want a business like that? Okay? So I was in. I was in right there. So here's what happened. I go home. My mother calls me up the same day. She didn't know that I went to this meeting. She didn't know that I went to the unemployment. She didn't know that I read the ad. None of that. And she says, David, a friend of mine is a receptionist at a company, and if you're good with people and with sales, and you know, you could do very well. I said, Ma, you know, it's good. I found something. I'm excited. She goes, it doesn't hurt to go look. I go and look in Toronto, and it's a company called Clearbrook. Guess what they're marketing? Water filters. Guess what kind of company it is? Multi-level. Another network marketing company marketing water filters, and my mother refers me to go take a look. It's statistically impossible that that could happen. Like, there's no chance of winning the lottery, right? And I thought, I'm supposed to do this. And so I got involved, and I got involved with that company, the wrong company. They had a great product, but no company.
Oh.
The other company had an inferior product, but with a machine, right? And they're still around. The other company went out of business 30 years ago. And that's how I got started in network marketing. So fast forward, I'm 28 years in the industry. I'm going into year 12 in Zija. This month, right now, October, is my 12th year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to do 9 companies before this. 9. Count them. Right? So people say, well, I've been through a few of these. I'm part of the NFL. No friends left. For me, it was more like no family left. So I was like barred from bringing it up at the dinner table, like the whole deal. And but you know, you learn things, right? You learn things. Hopefully, you're learning things along the way. And so that was my. I spent many years as a fuel distributor, 9 years on the corporate side, and I tried ownership 3 times. And you know what I learned as an owner? Ownership's not for me. Right? That's why I'm a distributor again. Once I saw Ken Brailsford, how he built this company, methodically, piece by piece, I actually realized how much I didn't know that I didn't know at the time. Even though I had it, when I started my company, I had the $1 billion vision, the whole thing, right? We didn't have a chance. But you know, you learn things along the way, and everything is experience. So wherever you are, whether you're a professional networker or you're brand new, how many people this is your first company?
Nope.
Okay, how many people you've dabbled in a few companies, but this is your first serious company? Okay, so you know what? That's okay. It's all part of the process, and it is a prerequisite to success. I believe that. I don't believe that we can go to the top without going through a number of challenges. So, how many people here, again, I'm going to ask a lot of rhetorical questions, so just bear with me on it. How many people here want to enroll more customers, sponsor more distributors, have more duplication and rank advancements?
Amen.
All right. Imagine that, everybody.
Yes.
That was the perfect set of questions. Okay, that's called speaking to the listening, right? That's saying the things that everybody wants, okay? And that really is the essence and the art of becoming a master storyteller. So I say this to you because in my first couple of years, my first few companies, I was not teachable, not one bit. And what I mean by that is I had my enthusiasm on a graph. My enthusiasm was here, right? And my check was down here. I had no check, but I was motivated, right? To give you an analogy or an image of what that looked like, everybody seen a dragster at the lights before it goes down with the wheels spinning and smoking? That was me for almost 2 years, right? I wasn't going anywhere, but I was just on fire. And then finally, when reality starts to set in and you gotta put food on the table, the enthusiasm starts to go down. You better be learning some skills. So what happened was, around the middle of my first year, second year, I met this guy who talked to me about my story. He said, "What's your story?" And I had no idea what he's talking about. What do you mean, what's my story? I said, "Well, tell me in 60 seconds, like, you know, how you got in this business, why you're doing it." And I couldn't do it. Why? Because I didn't have one. I just said whatever came to mind is what I said. And you two? Who right now can rattle off their 60-second story nailed? Raise your hand. You can rattle it off in 60 seconds. Okay. Shall we?
Yes, please.
All right. Let's have you do your 60-second story.
Okay, my name is Dennis Rue. I started the Zija journey back when I was in 2013. I was very overweight, had carpal tunnel, vertigo. Started my first drink on May 15th of 2013. Since then, I don't have any vertigo. I've lost 129.4 pounds.
Woo!
That's a good story. Is that story going to attract business builders or customers? Customers. How many people in this room have vertigo and or carpal tunnel? Raise your hand. Watch this. One. What does that mean? That means your story does not speak to the other 99% of the room. Right? So, is that his story? Absolutely. But does it, you know, what's the goal of telling our story?
Get their attention.
To have people join you, to sponsor, right? To get more customers or more distributors. Oops. To get more customers and or more distributors. But how many people here, if you had a choice between more customers or more business builders, which one do you want?
Distributor.
Raise your hand if you want business builders.
Yes.
Okay? Raise your hand if you want more customers. Okay. You can only have one of the two. You can have both. But if you could only have one of the two, which one would it be?
Distributor.
Business builders.
They are customers.
Because if you have more business builders, you have more customers. Every business builder is a customer, but not every customer is a business builder.
Right.
Okay? So, what we say in our story is going to make all the difference as to whether we have business builders or customers. Dennis, there's not too many people that can sponsor people like you. I know. This guy, how many of you sponsored? It's hundreds. 200. I've only sponsored 160 people in Zija in 12 years. He sponsored more than me.
Wow.
92 in 1 month.
Whoa. Woo. Woo, woo.
Now, would you rather have a few of them duplicate and become like multiple diamonds below you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Your story is going to determine your story, your ability to tell your story, your ability to teach others to tell stories will determine to a large degree whether that happens or not. Everybody get that, what I just said?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. So 1993, I go to this meeting in Palm Springs, California. And, you know, I had made a little bit of money, $1,000 here, a couple thousand there, but nothing that was stable. And the company's called Bodywise International. There's 800 people at this event. It's a Friday. This guy gets up on stage at the end of the meeting to do the business testimonial component. There's about 4 or 5 testimonials. And he lays down a 60-second testimonial that was so powerful, it made your hair go back and your hair stand up, and you just had like goosebumps. I mean, it was just penetrating, powerful. And I said, I want to be like that guy in terms of having projection and power. His name's Dan McCormick. He became one of my closest friends in the industry, a mentor. I've never been in his group. He's never been in my group. We've never made a dime off each other. The reason I'm in Zija International is because of his referral. he knew someone who knew the owner and referred me to this company. Thank you, Dan. So I got to know Dan, and I modeled after him and mastered, read the books that he suggested, like Think and Grow Rich and As a Man Thinketh and Og Mandino and, you know, all the personal development stuff. But I mastered the art of storytelling. So here is one quote that encapsulates everything that you need to know about storytelling. The first thing is have something good to say. And what's the second part of that? Learn to say it well. Have something good to say, and the second part is learn to say it well. And so, this is the basic structure of a story. When you master the ability to share your story in 60 seconds, then you'll have mastered everything, like how to tell the company story and Ken's story and other people's testimonial, the product story, and or the compensation plan story. Any story, you become a master storyteller. How many people have been on my Facebook Lives, or right? So it's always some kind of storytelling, right? Whatever the training is, it's in a story format, right? We're all natural story. How many people have kids here? Right? We're all natural storytellers, and we've all told stories to our kids, right? We're just learning how to tell a different type of story, right? So we're going to talk about doing the structure, mastering your story. So the last group said, well, can you rattle off your 60-second story? Do I need to do that again?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's got their watch out now. So, you know, when you're in a Facebook Live or in a Zoom format, at a testimonial, at a large event, you're on stage, you're sharing a story, a three-way phone call, a validation, you need to have your story canned. Now, what you say and how you say it is going to make all the difference in the world as to whether you're sponsoring customers or business builders, right? And whether they duplicate or not. So Dennis's was very customer-oriented. That all it talked about was a personal weight loss story, but didn't necessarily relate to everybody. So, mine kind of goes like this. Hi, my name is David Moses from Toronto, Canada. My background was in the trades. I was a locksmith, glazer, worked in the family business. I did do car restoration for a while, but you know, I wanted more. I wanted time freedom. I wanted to work from home. I just wanted to have a business that would be mine. You know, when Zija came along through a friend, what I saw was a company with world-class products that everybody needs, everybody wants, people fall in love with, they become fiercely loyal to. So I decided to join. I joined with something called a diamond pack, as I saw other successful people do it that way. I got on a ZRP, the reorder monthly, plugged into the system, introduced my first 2 people, taught them to do the same thing, and now my business is across Canada, on multiple continents, and in 56 plus countries. The best part is, I'm helping other people do exactly the same thing. How long is that?
Woo!
59? All right. 59, 61. So,
Wow.
okay, what's my point?
A lot.
How many people want time freedom?
Yes.
How many people want a royalty residual income? How many people want to work from home? So, again, if you ask, all of those ingredients are in the story. So my story is speaking to almost every single person in the room. How many people want to be associated from a marketing standpoint with world-class, life-changing products that everybody needs, wants, and becomes fiercely loyal to? Who wants to be associated with those types of products? Okay? And so, you don't have to necessarily have a personal result to project a powerful story. Okay? How many people think that if I've got a big paycheck, I can tell a much more powerful story? How many people think that doesn't matter? I can tell a strong... How many people aren't going to put up your hand anymore? Well, you say, like, my arm's tired. Okay. You don't have to have a big check to tell a great story. Right?
It does help, right?
No, not at all.
No conviction out of that at all?
No. Because here, the reason I joined ZG International, because I saw the potential to make a multiple six-figure income working from home by helping others and replace what I do within the next 18 to 24 months. So I just said everything that needs to be said without making an income claim. Right?
Makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Right? So what did I project there? I projected vision. Right? If you're projecting vision, other people can see the vision if the vision is clear because the story is strong.
That's good.
And you will enroll people.
Oh.
Right? The check comes behind. What comes first? The check or the vision?
Vision.
It's the vision. The check comes behind the vision. Okay? So, here's what I did. I got a piece of paper. I got an 8 by 11 blank piece of paper. And I wrote the entire story down. I literally put, my name is David Moses, and I wrote the whole thing down, my background. And so here's the structure. You know, naming where you're from, your background. You could have education, occupation, and you don't have to have them all, but you can have components. Couple benefits. So you can have benefits of the product, or like you could have the weight loss, a couple benefits, right? I would leave the carpal tunnel out in the other two because it doesn't relate to 99% of the audience that you're talking to, right? It might, on a personal one-to-one, maybe you have a friend with that exact issue, that's different. But always remember, the goal is to sponsor more people, to have relatedness, right? So, I like to be more generic. World-class products that everybody needs, everybody wants, everybody falls in love with, they become fiercely loyal to, they order and reorder day after day, month after month, year after year. So I've said that in like 10 seconds, but it's everything a person would want to know from a product standpoint. The details on the specific products, they can get that after, right? We can give them all the details that make some of the products super extra special after the fact, right? And then how I got started. Now, why do we put in how we got started, right?
Because that's
I got the diamond pack, got on a ZRP, got my first 2 people. I got GQ qualified, which you want to hear about, as you know, right away, my first week. Why is that relevant?
because that's where they
Because what am I doing?
Planning.
I'm encouraging, but I am really creating the duplication. I'm starting to train the new person before they've even joined on what they're going to do in order to effectively duplicate. Everybody got that?
Yes.
And if you're creating a culture in your organization of effective storytelling, the duplication becomes a natural extension of that. Because everybody's duplicate. You ever seen an army marching? Every person is marching the same way, with the gun the same way. Everything is exactly the same. That's what you want to create in your business. If you've got a business where everybody's doing something different, you don't have the rhythm, the stride, thus the duplication, the rank advancements, and then of course the check. Okay? So, that's the structure. What I did was, I wrote it all down, and then I got in front of a mirror. I got in front of a mirror, and I read it over until I had it memorized. So first I had something good to say in 60 seconds, and the second part is, what did I do? I learned to say it well through repetition. Now, I don't need to write it down anymore. I can string a story together because the skill is there. So once you've mastered this skill, then every aspect of network marketing becomes completely natural. You don't have to do it anymore. You won't be up on stage trying to think about what you want to say or how you want to say it. You'll know what to say and how to say it at any time. That's why I never really use slides, and I don't use notes, and I don't use a teleprompter. Because I know what I need to say, what the next right thing to say is, based on what my audience needs to hear in order to move forward. So, here's the good news, everybody. Who heard Bob Proctor last night? Right? Okay, so this is my Bob Proctor. By the way, he was my first personal development seminar in 1990.
Wow.
Very first, in the spring of 1990, I went to his seminar. So here's the good news. Everybody can learn how to do this, right? If you follow these instructions. So, you know, I love it. Like Bob's speaking style penetrates, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember that from 30 years ago because he penetrated. And when I saw him again 26 years later, it was like I just saw him yesterday, right? Have something good to say and learn to say it well, right? And that's your pacing and leading and your voice inflection and projection and sometimes slowing down so that you can really make the point, right? That's the structure of the story. Now, the next concept, another $1 million skill, is learning to work in depth. So let's talk a little bit about that. How many people have heard the question is, I don't know a lot of people and I don't have the right people and where can I find good people? Anybody ever heard any of those? Okay.
All the time.
I'm here to tell you that in 85 to 95% of the cases, the leaders that will make your business go, that will explode your organization, will not come from you. You want some proof? Raise your hand if you were sponsored by me. There's nobody in here. Okay, one guy. Okay? One guy. My good friend Phil Jacobson,
Wow.
who, by the way, was one of a handful of people acknowledged last night for being a multi-million-dollar earner in ZJ International. And, you know, that's really cool. We've known each other for 30 years. Give him a hand. So, time goes by really quick. Like, really quick.
You got this.
So I want to talk about working in depth. The key to network distribution, the one mechanical skill to learn outside of telling your story, is how to work in depth through sponsorship. Not through placement. So it's not about me sponsoring Jed and sponsoring Phil and putting Phil under Jed or Jed under Phil. It's about me working with Jed and his center of influence to help him sponsor someone to sponsor someone. So there's a difference between 3 people in a row that were placed and 3 people in a row that were sponsored through their circles of influence. Everybody with me? Any questions? Okay, so the key to our business is I'm going to sponsor Dee Dee or Mary and teach Mary how to sponsor Tom in order that Tom will sponsor Joe. When you master that, if that's all you had to master along with storytelling to become wealthy in network marketing, would it be too much? Would that be something that you can do? Okay. Yeah, that's all you need to do in this business. Just master the art of storytelling and working in depth. And it's like magic. It's like magic. So work in depth. Now, why work in depth? Tell you a quick story. Yuri Haradsky, one of my personals, he came into Zija kicking and screaming, didn't want to do this company, didn't want to do the business, was kind of retired and just, just done. But he signed up. And then he wasn't kind of really doing it, so what did I do? I sponsored more people, and what did I do with the people that I sponsored? I placed them underneath them, because there was nowhere else to put them. And it kept going, and then finally Yuri one day says, you know what, I'm going to try to do something. So he did some meetings, and he tried to sponsor, and it wasn't working. And anyways, one thing led to another. He spoke to this guy who didn't want anything to do, but this guy gave him a referral of a lady, I don't even remember her name anymore, it's been so long, of a lady in Utah who was on The Biggest Loser. How many people know that show? Yeah. So she was on The Biggest Loser, and she decided she wanted to be a company spokesperson. This is like 2008. And the company said, we're not looking for a spokesperson. So she gave me a referral. So I'm talking with her, she gave me a referral of a guy who knew someone that used to work for Zango in Japan. The guy doesn't work for Zango in Japan at the time, but we did a meeting with him, and he knew the person that he left. Anyways, one thing led to another. From someone that wasn't interested to this referral to this guy to this other person, we ended up with the Japan organization, which has done about, I don't know the exact number, but like 40 or 50 million dollars. Like, it's done a lot of business, right? On Yuri's left leg. Top 10 earner, multi-millions, because of a referral, of a referral, of a referral by working in depth through other people who didn't even join, right? Who didn't even join. So everybody got the idea of working in depth? Don't worry about who you know, right? I don't know about you guys. My friends and family were absolutely negative, skeptical, and cynical. Can anybody relate to that?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty definite. Right? Has anybody got any, are there any positive family members?
One.
All right. Listen, I got 25 first cousins. 25. Count them.
Wow.
Right? Not a single one of them's in my business. Right? Not one. They'd love to join now.
Oh, I bet.
Okay, so everybody got 3 levels deep. Now, there's a key here that when we teach this one concept, we will automatically go 5 levels deep. Now, follow me on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Kathy, and when I sponsor Kathy, right? So I'm the you at the top. No, Kathy. Yeah, I'm the you, and you're number 1. So here's what I'm going to say to Kathy. I'm going to say to Kathy, Kathy, listen to the language here. The most important thing that I can show you to get your business off to a fast start, to get the duplication going, is that when you sponsor your first person, I want you to teach them how to go, how many levels deep?
5.
No, 3.
3.
So I sponsor Kathy, and I tell Kathy that when she sponsors her first person, she's going to show the first person to do 3 levels deep.
3 levels.
So Kathy comes in, number 1. She sponsors Dee Dee, number 2. And she says to Dee Dee, I need you to go 3 levels deep, and I'm going to help you do that. So Dee Dee sponsors number 3, who sponsors number 4, who sponsors number 5. How many levels deep have I gone? 5. By teaching that one concept to Kathy and ensuring that she shows that to her first person. Right? You got that? And you know what happens at level 3, 4, 5, 6? Anybody know what happens?
Exponential growth.
Chris Estes shows up.
Money.
Or Phil Jacobson shows up. Or Pat Anderson shows up. Right? Your leaders will always emerge in depth, not from your personals. Now, if you are lucky enough to sponsor top leaders like a Phil Jacobson in your personals, you know, great. But that doesn't happen that often. That's not so easy. Right? When I came into Zija, there were about 5 or 6 people between Chris Estes and I. They're all gone. And guess who's front line to me? Chris. So the cream rises. Right? Always. Right? So you work in depth, 5 level, everybody got that. Master this skill, practice it, do it. And your leaders will show up through other people. That's where you meet people. That's why I say, wherever I go, whatever continent, whatever city, whatever country, and I always ask the question, if you were sponsored by me, raise your hand. The hands never go up. Because there's only 18 people in the entire company personally enrolled by me. There's 160 originally, right? But 142 of them are, is it 2?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. Right? 100, I wasn't good in math either. But most of them are gone. But the 18 that are left represent the organization in Zija today. Every single person in that room at the convention. Right? That's, who wants to have a business like that? Master the art of storytelling and master working in depth. Now, ultimately, you're going to manifest, one of the things about mastering your story, you're mastering the art of projecting vision. What is the difference between a top leader, a Bob Proctor, or any of the people? Is the only difference is what we're saying and how we're saying it. That's the only difference, is what's being said and how it's being said. So we're either painting pictures of what to do and what things look like speaking into existence, that which we all want, or we're not. So when you master the art of storytelling, you're really mastering the art of casting vision, right? And we say vision is the art of seeing the unseen. It's the ability to project something and then have it manifest into reality, into physical reality. And I heard this. I heard this quote. I thought it was great. I said, put it on there. In every revolution, whether it be world-changing or personal, there's one person with a vision. At my very first network, in my very first networking company, there was the VP of sales of the company did a talk, and he was talking about in each family there's usually one person in a family. Everybody's got someone in their family who became very successful at something and changed the trajectory of the family. Maybe the whole family, or certainly their family. And when I was 27 at the time, that was really appealing. It's like, I want to, I'm going to do that. And so you can do that not for the sake of the material things, even though it's nice to have money and be debt-free and not have to worry about that aspect of life. But for me today, from today's perspective, my new grandson, my kids, and the future generations, it's a beautiful thing to be able to secure our children and our grandchildren. That may be the single biggest motivator. Of all the motivators, that trumps. That might not be a good word.
Yes, it is. Yes,
I mean, that could be good, but maybe not, Depends. Right? In Orlando, it's half and half, right? Because it's like a swing state. All right. I'm a Canadian, but I watch way too much news. I was going to say Fox News, but I'm not going to say that. Okay. Where was I now? I'm still standing. Things are okay.
Legacy, family.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah, family.
this vehicle of Zeech International can give you whatever you want if you give yourself the opportunity to master a few key skills. Be teachable, be coachable, be willing to learn, right? Learn how to tell your story, master it, master your story. Write it down until you've mastered, till your story is so compelling that people can't resist coming to take a look every time you tell it, right? And then master working in depth, and you will find your leaders, and you'll be standing up, you know, on the stage with half the room in your business. And I'm watching the next generation of leaders come up now in Zeech International. It's a beautiful thing. So with that, everybody, we are at the end of this one.
Woo! Thank you, thank you. พี่สาวครับผมพี่ปานีขอไปถ่ายรูปกับคุณเดวิดครับผม
Charles, nice to meet you. Yes, it's nice meeting you. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Jolly.
คุณปานีครับผมเชิญครับผม
Thank you.
Do you want me to take it with it?
no yes
Yes, 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 yes. Big poses. Big. Okay.
Okay, come in close.
All right.
I can take a still picture
Come in out of the light.
Yeah, let me take that